This commentary is pertaining to Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She was just released from prison on Thursday, and now she's the talk of the town. We're going to chop up this information. She also wants to connect to with Miss Kim Kardashian. Now, what she has up her sleeve with Miss Kim, I do not know. I'm not going to play any audio pertaining to her release due to copyright infringement. I've already had one video copyright pertaining to Summer Wells. It was Dr. Phil's segment, and I had to zip that out of the video. So if you watch that last live stream pertaining to Summer Wells, you'll see that segment about her being on the show with her husband was removed. I removed it. This is a day of back-to-back lives, so please stay tuned for another live stream, and that live stream will be pertaining to the Idaho 4, and I may also do a double with Summer Wells and the search. What did the search reveal, and why did they search in those certain areas? Beach Creek community. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie 129 Cash App, stickers and checks are always welcome during the live stream. People Magazine is the source. Welcome to Crime Vault, everybody. Gypsy Rose Blanchard released from 10-year prison sentence early after mother's murder. I'm ready. This is an exclusive interview with People Magazine. And there you'll see a photograph of her. This is in Missouri, getting her early parole. That bigger guy with the glasses, that's her boyfriend, if I'm not mistaken. And she's also been married, I heard in that People segment. So if you need to verify this information, People has a video on this commentary. Thank you all so much for joining me. Gypsy Rose has been released from prison after serving 8 years for her role in her mother's murder. Gypsy was released from Chillicothe Correctional Center in Missouri around 3:30 a.m. local time. The Missouri Department of Corrections confirmed to People. I'm ready for freedom, Gypsy tells People in an exclusive interview conducted just before her early release. I'm ready to expand, and I think that goes for every facet of my life. And this is Miss Gypsy Rose. Get a better view. And they also have photographs of her out and about shopping with the new boyfriend as well. Ozarks First and the Springfield News Leader previously reported in September that the Missouri Department of Corrections said Gypsy 32 was granted parole and was set to be released in December. Gypsy was sentenced to 10 years in prison in July 2016 after pleading guilty to murder for her role in the fatal stabbing of her mother, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard. By the time Gypsy was released, she served 85% of her sentence as her time spent in the Greene County Jail before the Missouri Department of Corrections contributed to her overall sentence. After Dee Dee Blanchard was found dead in June 2015, Gypsy, who was 23 at the time, and her boyfriend at the time, Nick Godeshaw, were both charged with murder. Now, no one will ever hear me say, I'm proud of what I did, or I'm glad that she's dead, Gypsy tells People. I'm not proud of what I did. I regret it every single day. This is the mother who faked an illness pertaining to this girl child for many years. And I believe by the age of 23, that's when the cat got out of the bag, that she had never been an ill child, that her mother used people, the public, to get donations, a Habitat house, and attention and sympathy for this child who was not sick. She had her sit in a wheelchair. She could walk. And then the rest is history. Once she hooked up with a young guy online through a Christian group, they got together. She asked him to commit this crime. He did. Please tune into A&E. I have it on my community page if you want to watch the full segment. I prefer that you do watch it so you can get an understanding of who Gypsy Rose is, who her mother was, and the young man that she briefly dated before this murder of her mother. That is a picture of the mother, Dee Dee. She was a diabolical lady. She's no longer here. Following their arrest, it was revealed that Dee Dee had fabricated all of her daughter's medical issues, that Gypsy was a victim of Munchausen by proxy syndrome, a rare form of abuse in which a guardian exaggerates or induces illness in a child for attention and sympathy. Dee Dee had convinced everyone in her lives that she was a terminally ill teenager with the mind of a 7-year-old who suffered from muscular dystrophy, leukemia, and other ailments. I would voice concerns being like, I really don't feel like I need this. And she would get really, really upset with me and start manipulating me. So what were those things that she felt like she didn't need? Is the wheelchair one of those things? Gypsy had claimed that her mother wouldn't allow her to speak during doctor visits and told her that if she ever tried to escape, police wouldn't believe her story. I was very sheltered, explains Gypsy, who was never enrolled in school and was largely kept from having a relationship with her father, Rod, stepmother, Christy, and her half siblings. I was limited in what I could watch and the exposure I had to other kids. What I knew of the outside world was only in Disney movies, and those don't talk about warning signs of bad parents. In November 2017, Gypsy told Dr. Phil McGraw that she didn't believe she deserved as many years as she got. I believe firmly that no matter what, murder is not okay, she said at the time. I do believe that I do deserve to spend some time in prison for that crime, but I also understand why it happened. And I don't believe that I'm in the right place to get the help that I need. Do you all agree with that statement? Please, as I said, watch the A&E documentary on this so you can get a gist of how everything unfolded and the police interrogations of she and the then ex-boyfriend. Today, she's much more reflective. She didn't deserve that. She says of her mother's killing, she was a sick woman, and unfortunately, I wasn't educated enough to see that. She deserved to be where I am, sitting in prison doing time for criminal behavior. Gypsy's boyfriend, Gadajan, 32, was sentenced to life in prison without parole in 2019 following his trial conviction for the first-degree murder. The Springfield News Leader, KY3 and KOAM reported at the time. Gadajan met Gypsy online and traveled from Wisconsin to see her in Missouri. According to Gypsy's testimony in court, she had talked him into it. They met on a Christian date site. Okay? This is how the two met and how this heinous crime came to be. And some may disagree that the mother deserved it. So we're going to talk about all that after I read this information. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. You are listening to Crime Vault. Thank you all so much. Okay, so let's get back to where I was. All right. Testimony in court says she had talked him into it. That's another regret she has. If I had another chance to redo everything, I don't know if I would go back to when I was a child and tell my aunts and uncles that I'm not sick and mommy makes me sick, says Gypsy now. Or if I would travel back to just the point of that conversation with Nick and tell him, you know what, I'm going to tell the police everything. I kind of struggle with that. Gypsy and Gadajan have since separated, and Gypsy is now married to Ryan Anderson, a Louisiana teacher she wed behind bars last year. She tells people, we're in love. So this isn't a boyfriend. This is a husband. I think I got that kind of confused. Okay. Let's see. Louisiana teacher. She married behind bars, everybody. She adds, when I'm at home with my family, with my husband's arms around me, and I'm surrounded by my loved ones, that is when I will be happy. Now, as she prepares to tell her own story in Lifetime's gripping new docuseries, The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, premiering January 5th, she's opening up about her shocking journey to help others. I want to make sure that people in abusive relationships do not resort to murder, she says. It may seem like every avenue is closed off, but there is always another way. Do anything, but don't take this course of action. If you suspect child abuse, call the Child Help National Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4-CHILD or 1-800-422-4453, or go to www.childhelp.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential. The hotline is open 24/7 in more than 170 languages. The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, a 6-hour special offering unprecedented access to the most popular victim of Munchausen by proxy, premieres January 5th on Lifetime at 8 p.m. And I will put up a notification on my community board to remind you all of this diabolical case. Let's go back up to see the picture of her with the mother. So mind you, this person was never ill. Gypsy Rose. She was not sick, no cancer, no muscular dystrophy, no nothing. Just a sick female who was taking care of her. Very scary. So let's scroll up a little bit so you can see pictures of her. Trying to find the pictures of her out and about. These are all prison pictures, of course. Short hair, was buzzed short to have that facade that she was sick. Now, at this time, she was legally grown with the short hair. Very scary. Her in court. Hair longer now. Pictures of her wearing a princess outfit. Very scary. And then you have this picture here. I guess she married him in jail, the teacher. Sorry about that. Okay. I need to find that boyfriend, the ex, so you can get a picture of how he looked. Let's see. Looks like a lot of different people. Let's see. Now, these are photographs of the boyfriend at the time. That's his photograph. And then to the right, which is my right, would have been the mother and her. Looked like they're in maybe a helicopter or airplane. The woman got a lot of help from people. And that's what's so sad about this situation. Give you a full view of everybody. Boyfriend, I think that's the husband now. Ex-boyfriend at the time. We're going to talk about him as well. Thank you all for joining me. Was justice served? Did she get the right amount of time? Should she have even gotten time? I've wrestled with this late in the morning when I watched the documentary on A&E. Well, everything's a flip of the coin, and everything's about perception. Everything's about also how you were raised and taught. This is where we form our ideas and our opinions pertaining to true crime and doing wrong. Some will say that what she did was right. The mother deserved it. The mother got karma. Some might say, yes, she got karma. She used this child up until the point she's a legal adult, 20 plus years old, and she's still under the mother's thumb. Didn't know how to branch out. Didn't know how to navigate in the world. Then the flip side of that is, well, she knew how to ask this guy to help kill her mom, because he says it in interrogation tapes that, yes, she asked me to do it. He also goes on and on that he had an evil side of him, a twin. He thought he had multiple personalities. He had been on medicine before. He heard voices. But a doctor testified in court, naturally, for the state that he didn't deem him to be ill, mentally ill. He was aware of his faculties. So it's a toss-up of the two. So let's stick with her culpability. Did she get the right amount of time, or should she have not gotten time? The reason why you will see her lying in interrogation in the beginning is because she was groomed as a liar. See, this is why I keep talking about when you mistreat children. You are forming their identity. And that's what people don't understand. We don't know how she could have turned out had she not been raised by this Dee Dee character. Okay? You also hear the father wasn't allowed to be around her growing up. Why not? Why didn't the father force it? Did the father ever try to take her to court? So you have to ask all those questions, because this is how we come to be in this situation of hearing this story and how she got where she was, which was allegedly 10 years in prison, but early release, 85% of the time done. Okay? Was it right for her to conspire to have her mother killed? Would she probably gotten more time had she killed the mother? I don't know. She might have probably got no time. And people, realize, okay, this girl's trapped in this house. She can't get out. She can't think for herself. But then the flip side of that is she knew how to ask a guy to kill her mom. So she knew right from wrong. She had to have known. You entitled to your opinion. Was justice served? Because let's talk about the boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend, rather. He has a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Nicholas Godejohn. Okay? He is not getting out. And I think he also has some mental issues. Sorry about that. Let's get a good look at him. This is at the time he was arrested. He was not mentally there either. Now, he talked a lot during interrogation, finally admitting to the truth. Yes, I killed the mom. He goes on to tell you that the mother was calling for the daughter's name. Naturally, she never came out from hiding while he was stabbing the mother. He thought he stabbed her only maybe 3 times, but allegedly, uh, medical examiner says 17 times. State says 17 times. So 17 times. Alternate personality or evil person inside of him. He has 2 sides, a good side, bad side. The bad side talked to him. The bad side told him to go ahead and kill her. He also says the good side was telling him, maybe this is not a good idea. You shouldn't do this. But I think he has some mental issues. And I think he's probably like a lot of people. He didn't get diagnosed. And then it was too late. I think 2 mentally disturbed people met each other. And you see this a lot in life. Because you always have to ask yourself, how did one get talked into doing something so heinous as murder? Abuse. Now, we're not talking about abusing children. We're talking about abusing a woman who was abusing her own daughter. As I said, I think she would have gotten less time had she killed her baby on her own. Because she easily could have just told him, I lashed out. I've been cooped up in this life, this house. I was afraid of her. I didn't know what to do. I think she would have probably not gotten any time or been committed to a mental facility had she not met up with this guy and asked him to help her. Now, in certain states, the orchestrator can get just as much time as the killer. We have seen this with murder for hire. I guess it depends on the state you're in. So as you see here, Missouri, the state of Missouri, gave her 10 years, which she only did 85%. And then he got life for the actual crime because he did stab the lady to death. But was it the right justice for him, for Mr. Nicholas Godejohn? Because if he's not well himself, she's been groomed to be a liar and manipulator and crazy person herself. What's the difference? So do you agree that he should have gotten life in prison? Or should he have gotten 10 years such as her, or been put in a mental facility since he did have mental issues beforehand? I do not know what diagnosis he has at the current. Do not know if he's been diagnosed inside of prison, because we already know that most people who go to prison, they don't get any type of counseling or mental help. That's the reason why when they are released, they go back out here and they commit more atrocious crimes. And that has been proven because the United States has the highest recidivism in the world. People going in and out of jail and prison. So weigh in. I will post this to my community board. Was justice served with Gypsy Rose only getting less than 10 years? Or she got a right sentence? Or she should not have been arrested, period. Maybe a mental prison or a mental facility. Because you do have a mental jail, mental prison, then you have a mental facility, and those are probably very rare, because I know that we used to have a facility here in Knoxville that's been closed many years, and this is a problem for all these people wandering around the streets who need to be somewhere. But a lot of states just don't have mental facilities to house the criminally insane. So what should have been her punishment? What she got? No prison term, a mental facility, or mental facility that's also a prison. Nicholas, what should he have gotten? Time in prison? Short time, same amount of time that she got? Or no time? Is it because he stabbed her 17 times? They felt like, oh, he knew what he was doing. We listened to his interrogation tapes. He goes on and on about having these 2 sides, the good and evil, the good and the evil. He seemed to enjoy it, says one detective, female detective, during an interview. She said, I feel like he enjoyed it. He wanted to do this. He enjoyed doing this. You're entitled to your opinion. As I said, I do not know if he has a diagnosis, a formal diagnosis or not, but it was claimed that he did take meds at one time, and that he did claim, I believe in the interview, he did say that he had heard voices talk to him, and that it was a battle of the good and the evil But because of who the mother was and what she was doing to this girl, he went ahead and killed her. Now, when you listen to the interview of Gypsy interrogation, it comes across that, oh, I wanted to be with him. That's the reason why I had him kill my mom. But I think she was tired of living the lie. So she was groomed to be a liar. Okay, let's get that out of the way. You hear her in interrogation, she's going on and on and on, talking, denying the crime at first. That's expected. Most people do deny the crime at first, whether they're mentally ill or not, groomed to be a liar or not. So I expected her to be an actress, and she put on at first. Yes, she did, until they let her know, hey, we talked to the boyfriend. He said this, blah, blah, blah. And then the truth comes out, how they met and how everything came to be. But it's a wicked tale of a very sick lady who manipulated and used her child to get money from people, organizations, attention, news broadcasts, news interviews. She was abused. There's no question about that. Gypsy Rose was abused by her mother. But was it right for she and the guy to orchestrate and then kill the mother? Was justice served by the sentence she got, or she got the right sentence? And as I said, the flip side is it fair for him to be sitting in prison, even though, yes, he's the one that brought the blows to the lady? Should he be out? Should he be free? How does he feel about her being released? Did they ever contact each other when they were locked up in prison? What makes this guy that she's now married to marry her, take care of her, teach her? How's that going to work? She obviously has a childlike mind. She's going to have a childlike mind because she didn't get to grow up with children, play with children, be around children. You also hear that her uncle and aunt was mentioned in this commentary. Why didn't she call them to say, hey, I'm not sick, I'm not well, I can walk. Your sister's got me pretending to be in this wheelchair. There's nothing wrong with me. Why didn't she call a doctor or the hospital or CPS? Why didn't she call somebody to say, I'm not sick, I'm tired of being in this cat and mouse game with my mother? Wow, Hagen, that's kind of cruel, ain't it? I believe they should have both got a life sentence. Wow, interesting. Somebody said, in my opinion, I don't believe that Gypsy would have unalived mom without Nick. He wouldn't have unalived anyone without her. Her sentence was just, his wasn't, okay? Nothing can convince me that she's okay to be among society now. Well, there's two of you thinking that she shouldn't be walking free. Very interesting, because I tried to weigh this story in my mind this morning when I was up late. How do I feel about Gypsy and her role, listening to the interrogation tapes? And the best thing I'm going to say is this: she was groomed. This is why I keep trying to tell you all, with true crime and the abuse of children specifically, you can't be surprised at children growing up to become offenders and getting involved in crime. Because one, it's genetic. Think about everything that you've heard. With this story and many others. She was groomed from an early age. So it's no shock that she would be lying, okay, to authorities about what happened. Eventually, she told the truth. The best that you can believe is the truth. But she was groomed. So like I said, it doesn't shock me that she would be a liar. And this is another thing that you all are not thinking either. Her being free, the propensity to continue to lie again, because she's lied for a long time. That will become a coping mechanism for someone if they don't get help in how to tell the truth. So I would be a little bit worried about her going out here and manipulating other people, because she hasn't had any social skills. She hasn't been to school. So this guy who married her, he should be very leery if this young lady doesn't get any mental help. Because let me tell you something about a liar. Lying leads to other things, as we have seen with true crime. Now, naturally, as I have said, and you've heard this from many therapists, scientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, a liar doesn't necessarily make a murderer. A liar doesn't necessarily make a thief, but a murderer has some of those attributes. liar, thief, groomer, so on and so forth. Okay? And that's the premise here. She didn't get any mental help inside of prison, then you're still talking about a 7-year-old child in a 33, 34-year-old body. And that's dangerous. And I don't think this guy should have married her. I think she should have gotten out to a halfway house, learn how to live around other people, which she's done that for almost 10 years, but learn how to navigate into the free world, get a trade, go to school, get a job, meet a deadline, because those are all things you have to do when you're in a halfway house. She needs all that. She definitely needs structure. And she definitely needs immense counseling. And the time for her to have gotten counseling was while incarcerated. And that's my fear, is that she doesn't have the tools to navigate, because you don't know how she's going to handle stress, how she's going to handle somebody talking to her, down to her, or disagreement. See, we don't know how she navigated in prison. Did she pop off in prison, or did she handle being in prison well? I don't know. But Dr. Phil has done an interview with her back in 2019, and then there's another interview done with another entity, I believe, in 2015. But as I said, please check out A&E's 40-minute installment pertaining to her life with Dee Dee Blanchard. She says Dee Dee should be where she is, and I totally agree with that. That's the reason why they shouldn't have killed Dee Dee, because Dee Dee deserved to be in jail. Not stabbed up, not put 6 feet down. Dee Dee should be locked up for abusing a child, using a child, and also taking monies from people under false pretenses, which is fraud. Because right now, the mother possibly would be incarcerated herself had this girl decided to tell the truth at that time, instead of exacting this crime and finding this boy, meeting up with him and realizing, hey, I want a life. I'm grown. I don't want to do this anymore. I can walk. I have no need of being in this wheelchair. I can't even imagine realizing you can walk and you still don't try to go find somebody that can help you. But see, this is what happens when people are groomed, because we say this all the time. Why didn't you tell something? Why didn't you tell something? A lot of children have been assaulted, molested, groomed for all type of things, fraud, lying. She's not the first. And they don't tell anybody. They don't tell people, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I'm well. Yeah, my mom's using me. Yeah, I'm not sick. She's not the first, and she won't be the last. Dee Dee was a sick, sick woman. And you could see the house she lived in, the Habitat house. It had a ramp from the curb sidewalk all the way up to the front door. Somebody paid for that. Some innocent person, people, organization paid for that ramp for a person who could actually walk. Gypsy could walk. And when you watch her in interrogation, she's up, moving her arms around, probably showing them things, that she can move. And it's just sick to watch, because it's like, this is crazy. And yes, you can be hard on the little girl, because then to me, she has still a little girl at 30-something years of age. Her mother did this to her. Because let's be truthful, she may not have killed the mother had she not found somebody to help her do it. But who's to say if one day she didn't just get frustrated and decide to beat the mother in the head or get a gun and shoot her? See, we don't know, because she didn't do it on her own. And you're entitled to your opinion to believe if she would have done it on her own or not. But I think it would have became a screaming wrestling match at some point between Dee Dee and Gypsy. I just couldn't see this continuing. 23 years of age, you're still perpetrating yourself as a person that's paralyzed. That was not going to work. And Dee Dee should have known that wasn't going to work. The end was going to have to come at some point, because the girl was going to want to get out, meet people. And that's what she did. She met this boy on a Christian date site, and one thing begat another. She probably told him all the things that was going on, how she felt about being with her mom and living there, living a lie. I'm sure he knew all of that. I didn't hear much of that mentioned during the A&E interrogation, because naturally they probably didn't show all the hours they were interrogated. But I'm sure she told him that she had been used by her mother. Her mother was sick and ill. And she just wanted to be free. She wanted to be free. But that's my commentary pertaining to this diabolical story. Miss Rose is now out. Gypsy Rose is free, has a companion. She's been out seen shopping. Photographers followed her to a store where she got some new shoes. You hear her talking about that. Walking in the parking lot with this guy, the husband or whatever. And when you listen to her talk, she seems childlike there. Got me some new shoes. Very scary. Because my fear is that she may not be able to adjust out here if she doesn't have adequate mental help. Because she still has a childlike mind, and you don't grow up in prison. It doesn't matter how long you do prison time. You just don't grow up in there. That's just a myth. Oh, you grown up now, you've gotten prison time. No, free to know what you're capable of. Being incarcerated, it doesn't count. You're just doing the time that has been given to you. Doesn't mean you got your ducks in a row. Who are locked up, they say it all the time. I've changed. I'm going to do better. I ain't going to do that no more. I ain't going to do this. And they get right out here and they do it again. She was already a child when she went into the damn prison, okay? Or the jail at first. She was already a kid. Then she sits in there 85% of her time, don't know exactly what she did to kill the time. But the test is going to be out here free. So will she have children? Will she go to school? Will she get a job? How will this guy treat her? Will he treat her well? Will he start to get a little funky when he sees she wants to go places, do things without him? Because she has had no freedom. And what'll be sick is that she's gotten somebody who will end up being just as worse as Blanchard, her mother. Because she hasn't been afforded the opportunity to live like normal people. You're talking about growing up, never going to school, never taking trips with other kids and field trips and going to people's houses, slumber parties, and going to the movies with friends. When you hear the details in the A&E documentary, you are going to be floored. When she finally was able to be physical with this man, it was in the bathroom at the movies. She wheeled herself to the bathroom, met him there, because I believe he came from somewhere else, out of town, and then they had sex in a restroom stall. Imagine that. 20-something-year-old woman having sex with a man in a bathroom. Well, I guess her mother was in there watching the picture show. This is diabolical. This is how deep this story was at the time. She was a grown woman living with her mother, still playing the role of a sick individual. So this mother was very codependent and sick herself to have used her child to get attention and monies and material items by saying there was something wrong with her kid. And the fact that this girl was in her 20s when the jump off came is even more disturbing. Because you would think at some point the girl would say to herself, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I know I'm not sick. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm leaving. She only left after they killed the mother. And you'll see footage of that of her at the bus terminal. They're buying the bus tickets. Leaving to board the bus and stuff and going to the hotel. They got all that on surveillance for you to watch. And many people say, hell, yeah, they knew what they were doing. They look like they're conducting themselves as, free will thinking citizens. And no, I don't condone what he did, killing the woman. I wish the nice side of him would have said, hey, this isn't right. Hey, I'm going to come get you. I'm going to take you away from all this. But where could he take her? He lived at home with his parents. So how does his parents feel knowing their son is incarcerated for life? How does he feel seeing her out, married with somebody else, free? How does he feel? And when you look at him in court, had a shaved head, he gained a lot of weight. He didn't look well there. He didn't look mentally stable. And the one thing we've learned about mental illness that people can talk and sound like they're sane, but really they got something wrong. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to, diagnose either one. But you have seen many people talk like they know what they're talking about. They sound like they know what they want in life or they're doing well, but then something terrible happens and you realize there was something very, very wrong with them. And you've seen this many times. And this is how we get things misconstrued and confused when it comes to the diagnosis, because you've seen a lot of this with the Daybells and Lori and all these people. You know there's something wrong with them mentally, but they are free thinkers to know right from wrong. And that's where people can debate. Are they mentally ill to where they don't know what they're doing, or they know what they're doing, but still got a mental defect? And I'm sure a lot of us got some type of mental defect, but we do know right from wrong. And that's what this issue would be pertaining to the two. I'll read your comments. Okay. Froyo says, nothing can convince me that she's okay to be among society now. Bonnie's Journey says she was raised to lie and manipulate. I think she could still be a manipulative person. I'm not sure she should be out in society today, and she married some man while in prison. That's odd too. Well, Bonnie, a lot of people marry inside of prison, and there are various reasons why each person wants to marry somebody. One would say, why are you going to marry somebody that you know is not going to even get out of prison? Well, he probably married her because he knew she was going to be getting out eventually. And she probably felt the same thing. I need somebody to take care of me. I need somebody to help me. I want a life. I don't know. But people do marry behind bars. So it's not as odd as you think. It may be odd to you because you probably would not do that, marry a person that was incarcerated. But many people have married behind bars. That is, a lot of people marry behind bars, I'm sure. Weigh in on this topic. Gypsy Rose Blanchard has been released from prison. She's done 85% of her time. She is married, was out shopping, buying shoes, etc. What's justice served? Should she have gotten more time, or should she have been found not guilty? Should she have been in a mental facility and or a mental jail? Mental prison, however you call it. As far as Nicholas Godejohn, did he have something wrong with him? And he should have gotten a 10-year sentence as well. Even though he did kill the lady and stabbed her almost 20 times. Was there something wrong with him? Because as I said, during the A&E documentary, you will hear that he said he had some issues, took meds before, was hearing voices long before meeting her. And what would be interesting to find out is that possibly he's schizophrenic. Because we know that a lot of people do not get diagnosed with schizophrenia until later in life. That's when the other side decides to come out, the other personalities. I'm not sure if he's schizophrenic or not, but I do believe there was something wrong with him before he met her. And what's interesting is you have a guy who's seen, grown, and he's living at home with his parents, and here she is, 23, still living at home with her parents, her mother, and pretending to be sick, and she knew she wasn't sick. So I'd like to talk to those relatives. When you all thought that something was strange going on with your sister and this girl, this child, your niece, why didn't you call somebody? Adult Protective Services, CPS, why didn't you call to say, I don't really think the child is sick? Because you have to think about being in a wheelchair all the time. You're doing it only when you're in public. And the fact that they said the doctors at some point thought something wasn't right. Well, when you get checked and you go to the doctor, such as myself, I go get checked for my knees, right? So I have knee trouble. She takes that little thing, hit the kneecaps. There's a reason why she's doing that. There's a reason why the nurse practitioner is hitting my kneecaps. Why the knee surgeon is hitting the kneecaps. Because I guess they want to see the reflex of my knees and my legs. So I don't understand a child going to the doctor with all these alleged ailments, and nobody is hitting the kneecaps to see what type of reflex you get. The leg pops up. Because naturally, if your leg pops up once you hit the kneecap, that's a natural reaction from the knee. As soon as you hit that kneecap, your foot pops out, your leg pops out, which shows you have some movement feeling in your knee, I'm assuming. So I'm wondering why this wasn't done to her, where somebody could say, okay, she's got some movement here. And if you're paralyzed, would your leg pop out from hitting the kneecap? I'm just curious. Hagen says the getaway driver gets the same time as the bank robber. Well, Hagen, in some states, yes. Tennessee is that state, the complicit person. Yes, you sit in a car, somebody goes in to rob a store, house, somebody dies, because it's called, the commission of a robbery. Whoever was driving, whoever was in the house, they may not have even beat up the person or shot the person, but you were there. You take the murder charge. Let's just say for murder. You take the murder charge along with the person that pulled the trigger or wielded the knife, whichever. That's Tennessee law. And I'm sure there are probably other states that have the same law. So long as you were there, you are just as guilty. Because what they're saying is, had you not been in the house, the business, this event wouldn't have taken place. Whether you did the pulling of the knife, the gun, whichever. Because, many people can debate that. Well, we just went in to rob it. I didn't know he was going to shoot the lady. I didn't know he was going to beat the lady, sexually assault the lady, but you were there. And then 12 members of the jury have to decide, naturally, how do I know you didn't know what you were going to go do or what he was going to go do? Or where were you when they were assaulting a lady, let's say, or beating up the lady? How do I know you didn't participate? See, you don't know. You're taking somebody at their word. Same thing with being the driver. You may be asked to take somebody to somebody's house, or, hey, park at this corner, wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'll be right back. And then you sit there foolishly, you wait. Maybe you didn't know that you was taking somebody to go rob somebody's house, or they were going to kill somebody, then they get back in your car and then they say, okay, come on, let's go, I'm done. How do you know what they did? Because there are a few cases of people who have driven people to crimes and they didn't get lengthy sentences. Some didn't get any, depending on if they was the first one to take a plea deal, offer up the information. And we already know about the first person that hollers usually gets immunity from the crime, even if they didn't think that somebody was going to get killed, let's say. But then in this case, she did ask him to get rid of her mother. But to some degree, I do feel sorry for her because she was abused so long and groomed. I wish she had reached out to somebody and gotten some help so she wouldn't have this stigma following her around, as the mentally ill kid that groomed another person to kill her mother. Although she wasn't a kid, but her mindset is of a child. Crime and Crochet says, yes, and it's an involuntary reflex. One of the doctors questioned her muscle tone. Dee Dee moved her to a different doctor. Okay, so you've done a little homework. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. The doctor should have notified CPS. Whichever doctor noticed something not right with her, specifically thinking she was not ill. CPS should have been called and she should have been given a thorough exam by another physician through the state. And that doctor should have done all the tests, neurological, blood work, making her stand up, making her, see if she could walk, say, hey, can you walk? Can you walk? Have a psychiatrist talk to her. Hey, can you walk? Can you move? Do you believe you're really sick? Are you sick? I think she would have told the truth. So long as the mother wasn't around, I think she will eventually tell the truth. Yeah, I can walk. I'm not sick. I don't feel sick. But that's the gist of the story. Nobody followed through when they thought something wasn't right. And it's a doctor's job to notify CPS if they think there's something going on nefarious with the child. That's what you're supposed to do. Very interesting commentary. So let's talk about the young man once again, and I'm going to check out of here. Nicholas is doing life without the possibility. of parole. Should he have gotten that much time for killing her mother? I will put a poll up pertaining to the justice of both of these individuals. Very interesting, very interesting. Yep. Very scary. Very, very scary. That is she, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, released from prison. Now dating, free, living with someone, a man. This is her with shaved hair at the time, looking boyish. Probably had already been shaved bald and this grew out at the time of her arrest. Living this lie that her mother orchestrated. Very, very scary. It's all the photographs of her. This is the house that Habitat gave to them. As you see, there's the ramp. That ramp goes all the way up to the front door. It's a long ramp. And just imagine all this given to the mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. And it was a lie. Using her child to get money and attention and gifts from random organizations, people. Very scary. I'm trying to see if they showed that house again. This is her free, I guess. Looks like a hotel. She also has an Instagram page. I think she has a Facebook page too, if I'm not mistaken. I know I've looked at some page earlier. Ryan Scott Anderson is her husband, whom she reportedly married in 2022 while in prison, according to the Springfield News Leader. Wow. And there's a picture of her and mommy. Very scary. Undated photo. On the stand, Gypsy Rose Blanchard described how her mother took her to doctors throughout her life to treat her for various conditions, including leukemia, muscular dystrophy, that she never actually had. The mother forced her to use a wheelchair and an oxygen tank, although she required neither. Wow, this is deep. I have to pray to forgive my mother, but right now the hardest thing is to forgive myself, she said. The bizarre case also inspired several documentaries and a limited series on Hulu starring Joey King and Patricia Arquette. I want to check that one out, the Hulu series. So she's a married woman to a Ryan Scott Anderson. Very interesting. Okay, just giving you a little bit of update of who he is. That guy she dated at the time, Godejan, he had traveled to her family's home in Springfield to kill her mother. After the murder, the couple traveled to Godejan's home in Wisconsin, where they were arrested days later. Very interesting. Munchausen syndrome. How many times have we heard that storyline? Women using their children to get attention and gifts, money. So the mother also shaved her head, forced her to eat through a feeding tube, Gypsy Rose Blanchard told McGraw in their 2017 interview. And that's Mr. Phil, Dr. Phil. After Hurricane Katrina, the mother-daughter duo relocated to Aurora, Missouri, where Dee Dee Blanchard told doctors her ailing daughter's medical records had been destroyed by the hurricane, according to Ozarks First. A local Habitat for Humanity group built a wheelchair-accessible house in Springfield for the Blanchards in 2008. Mother and daughter were also subject of donations and gifts, including a trip to Disney World from various charitable groups in the community. They also met country singer Miranda Lambert through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Wow, that's deep. Didn't doctors suspect that Dee Dee Blanchard was lying? Today is the source of this information, if you're curious. Some doctors pushed back on Dee Dee Blanchard's claims of her daughter's various illnesses. Bernardo Flasterstein, a neurologist in Missouri, began to suspect Dee Dee Blanchard's claim that her daughter had been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy in Louisiana when he noticed no abnormalities in her MRIs and blood tests. Exactly. That's what I asked. Did she ever have blood tests done, full body exams done? And why did they stay in Louisiana? Is it because of Hurricane Katrina, blah, blah, blah? Where were they living exactly in Louisiana when the storm hit? Or did they move because somebody didn't believe the little girl was sick? So you never know. Okay. Flasterstein contacted Gypsy Rose Blanchard's doctors in Louisiana and learned her original muscle biopsy to test for MS came back negative. Very interesting. So imagine that. So then we have to ask that question. How was she when she was seeing this doctor, Flagerstein, and did he confront the mother? And if he thought something was abnormal, why didn't he call CPS? Very interesting. Nicholas Godejohn was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison after pleading not guilty. He stabbed Dee Dee Blanchard to death while Gypsy Rose Blanchard hid in a bathroom. Gypsy Rose Blanchard made a deal with Greene County prosecutor Dan Patterson, who took into account the abuse she had suffered at her mother's hand, reported Ozarks First. She pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. So she served 7 years of her original 10-year sentence, the Missouri Department of Corrections confirmed to Today.com. Oh, wow. 2017, HBO aired a documentary about Blanchard's case called Mommy Dead and Dearest. The film included interviews with both Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Nick Godejohn. In 2018, the Investigation Discovery aired Gypsy's Revenge, a 2-hour special documentary about the case that featured interviews with Blanchard and Godejohn. 2019, Hulu aired an 8-part true crime series inspired by the case, starring Joey King and Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Patricia Arquette as Dee Dee Blanchard. Very interesting. Same year, Lifetime aired a movie dramatizing the case as inspired by true events called Love You to Death. Oh, wow. Gypsy Rose gave a statement to Bustle after the release of The Act, saying, "I'm unable to watch The Act. However, I feel it's very unfair and unprofessional that producers and co-producer Michelle Dean had used my actual name and story without my consent and the life rights to do so. Therefore, there will be legal action taken against the show's creators. I want to share my story and bring awareness about Munchausen by proxy in the hopes that I can encourage those who might be experiencing abuse to speak up, because someone will listen. No child should ever be abused, especially from their parent." I agree with that. Dean, who wrote the viral BuzzFeed article about Gypsy Rose Blanchard and created The Act, said to Elle, "The show's not a work of journalism," she continued. "You don't need to pick up any information from it, but we thought the entire show should be grounded in the emotional journeys of the characters." Well, she's suing you, so there you have it. Today is the source, everybody. Oh, Sweet Tea, hello, sweetheart. How you doing? Thanks for joining me. Yes, Elizabeth. She was out shopping and she bought some shoes. Oh, stop it. They were running shoes. Girl, cut it out. Y'all are crazy. I feel Gypsy deserves a second chance. Her mother did horrible things to her. Yes, she did. And that's the flip side of this storyline. It's that no matter how you think what type of justice should be given, not given, was given, she was abused. We can't deny that. And that's where some people are going to debate about the sentence and also the sentence of the young guy. I think maybe she could have gotten off had she just killed the woman herself. Because people may have felt, sorry for her. She didn't involve anybody else. She did this because she was trapped. She felt trapped. The mother threatened her, told her nobody's going to believe your story. And that might be the truth. The mother probably did tell her that. Who's going to believe you? They're not going to believe you. Because, the mother probably talked a lot of junk to her. You go tell the truth. You're a part of this lie too. Blah, blah, blah. So imagine if they had those words with each other. And now you have to lie around this house with this diabolical creature, this little fat butterball, running you in the ground, using you, manipulating you, using the community, using the doctors, using anybody with a pulse, and you got to sleep in that same house with that person. That would have to be a horrible feeling to be playing these games as a young girl up until the age of 23. And we have seen children who grow up to be grown inside of a house with an abuser. They don't leave. They don't run away. Same thing with kidnap victims. There are a lot of kidnapped victims who now have the opportunity to roam outside of their house, but they don't do it. They won't go on that one trip and say to the cashier or somebody, please help me. I've been kidnapped. I've been held against my will. You see, she probably had numerous opportunities while out in that damn wheelchair to tell somebody, hey, I'm not really sick. Please call the police. This woman has been holding me hostage in this house. I don't go to school. I don't have friends. And I don't care what anybody says. Despite her asking that boy to help kill her mother, she had to have been miserable as hell. Let's be truthful. Because I'm going to say this. I'm not in her shoes as far as that type of abuse, playing like I'm paralyzed in a chair. But can you imagine how lonely that would be? That the only person you're interacting with is your crazy ass mother. And listening to her lies on phone calls and talking to people in public, making up stuff. And now you're a part of that lie. So she's been groomed to be a liar. That's why I said that would be my greatest fear, is that she ends up turning out to be like her mother because she has her mother's genes. That's no doubt. And I'd like to know where the hell the father has been, because you also will see an interview with people, I believe, where she's talking to the father and the stepmother saying, I don't blame you all at all, but he needs to take some responsibility too, because you allowed your daughter to stay in the house with this woman who used her like a rag doll for self-serving purposes. And you've been out here living your life, your best life, and your daughter's being abused. Where were you, sir? So I'd like to know where the hell he was. Did you know where your daughter was? Did you ever call? Did you know the city, the state? Did you live in the same city and state? See, you have to ask all those questions. Did you ever try to reach out to her? Did you ever try to reach out to the mother? I don't like open-ended situations when it comes to children, because a lot of people will just throw anything at you. Same thing with these interviews that the news reporters do with people. You can't leave a gap in a story. Tell me everything, and I'll decide if I want to believe it or not. That's how I feel about this story. Where was the father? When was the last time he had contact with Gypsy and the mother? What was the interaction? What was it? Now, will she build a relationship with her father? I hope she can. It's up to her. She doesn't seem to have a lot of, negativity. Her interviews, I don't think she was very negative. In the few clips I've seen of her speaking, she didn't seem, over the top or boisterous, or she didn't seem like, yeah, I killed that lady. I helped get that lady killed. Because, there was a post that was put on her page that the BITCH is dead, but I believe he posted that to her page, which led to the authorities getting involved in checking on the mother, doing a welfare check, and that's how they found her dead. But see, you just can't really be surprised at how people turn out when they're abused. I say this all the time, and especially it needs to be said because of the many crimes that take place here in the United States and abroad. That's the one thing that we do not fail to realize, is that most of the people out here committing crimes against women, men, children, they were also physically and mentally abused. That's where they learn the behavior. That's why you have a lot of angry men that hate women. They want to beat them up. They want to ostracize them. They want them to be submissive. They want to sexually abuse them, pimp them out, molest kids. It's all the same. That's why I keep trying to tell people why you don't want to abuse children, because they're carrying that burden into adulthood. Now you've got to try to expect their mindset to shift because they're grown. Because I said a lot of time, okay, you're grown, you got to get it together. But that's the point. Some people can't get it together. This is why we all have our vices. Some of us easily anger. Some of us are emotional creatures. We cry a lot. We moan a lot. We complain a lot. We get mad at people easily, or we don't let people in. We shut down. We can't have adult conversations. We don't know how to let other people voice their opinion. It's all a combination of how you were raised. I don't care what anybody says. Everything you do and say is a product from where you came from. The things you went through as a child, the things you went through as adolescence, high school, the things you went through in college. You have been battered, abused by men, other people. You might come to expect everybody to do that to you. So you're not even joyful in meeting people because you're already saying, oh, yeah, I know. He's going to try to use me too. He's going to try to steal my money. He's going to try to, take me for everything I got. Yeah, she's a liar too. She ain't going to do right. You will have expectancy if you have dealt with negativity a long time. And that's something that you have to work on personally. Not to expect the worst, not to assume that everybody is the same, not to think that everybody's going to abuse you. But it's a mindset. And that is something we really don't think about when we watch these stories of abuse. How did they get to that point? What is he doing raping women? What is he doing molesting kids? That's taboo. That's wrong. Yeah, we know that's wrong, but it comes from somewhere. Because 9 times out of 10, somebody do it. Somebody did it to him. He has never let that go. It has become acceptable to him. This is the very reason why young women are out in the street selling their bodies, having sex early, making babies young, because they're mimicking what was done to them, expected of them. So they don't have the mindset to say, I really don't want to be sleeping with all these guys. I really don't want to be having all these children back to back, because we judge people. We judge people according to the things they do, how they talk. I have to question myself about things I do and say. Wait, where the hell is this coming from? I know where it's coming from, but I don't have to tell you where it's coming from. You understand what I'm saying? And I had a guy tell me that many years ago. He was a very troubled individual. He told me once, he said, I don't have to tell you that I know I'm in the wrong. I know that I have wronged you. I don't ever have to tell you that I know what I did to you was wrong. Now, that's a very powerful statement, which would lead me to believe that he's telling me without actually saying, I apologize for how I've mistreated you and done you. And even though time has elapsed, I talked to this person maybe over a year and a half or so ago, I still see the same manipulative qualities in the person. Do you understand what I'm saying? They may not be living the way we're living at the time when I knew them years ago, but they still got some jacked up ass ways. And there are ways that I told myself that it's not even worth investing. And I don't mean in a relationship. I mean just conversation. Because let me tell you this. Once I see that you have lied to me and you had no reason to lie, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Because if you lied, I'm going to go ahead and just tell what it was about. If you lie about being in the hospital and when you were released, come on now. That is not that serious. If you lie about when you got released from the hospital, hell yeah, I got a problem with you. Because this is what I say to myself. One, why are you lying to me? What are you gaining from lying to me? And who am I talking to? So see, this is what you have to ask yourself. When people lie, they're a chronic liar, habitual, whatever word you want to use, compulsive. You got to ask yourself, who are you talking to? who are you dealing with? See, with a thief, you know a thief. You know they may steal from you. They stole from you before. Okay, you don't let them in your house. You don't bring them around. You don't put them in your car. But a person who's a liar tells little fibs, white lies, however you want to word it, and maybe you couldn't catch them in it, but you knew the version they gave didn't sound right, or the version they keep giving you don't sound right, but you just don't have the proof. But your spirit is telling you, this motherfucker is lying to me. You're going to have to, at some point, cut them off. Leave them alone. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I appreciate that. Exactly, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for saying that. Exactly. What else are you lying about? Exactly. You said that beautifully. Because that's the point. If you lie about something mundane, you'll lie about anything. Now, as I tell people, I understand you don't want to tell people your business, especially if you know you're dealing with people that are nosy parkers. They misconstrue anything you say or tell them. They make a big deal out of stuff you tell them. Then I can see you a lot to them and just, you don't tell them what they want to hear. Like if you're dealing with people that always got something nasty to say to you about something, then I can see you lying if they ask you a question. Well, what'd you do yesterday? Or where did you go? You just don't want them to know. You can either say I didn't do nothing or you can lie. I'm not promoting lying, but there are certain people who it's easy to lie to, especially when you know what they're about. And you know they're the type they'll carry a bone. Let me make that clear. Let's just say the person's a bone carrier. That anything you tell them, it's going to get repeated, even though it's something mundane and ain't nothing special. But they got to go tell it to somebody. Because I know somebody like that too. You tell this guy something and he's acting like a woman. He's got to go repeat it to his homeboy, his friend. And you're sitting here saying, my God, is this what you do in your spare time? You're discussing me. You're telling somebody something that's so stupid and trivial. So my thing is, okay, I got to be careful about what I tell this person because they're going to go repeat it and then they're going to use it against me. And see, that right there, not trying to veer off the subject, that right there, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And you have people who do that. They use everything you do and say against you, because that's the whole purpose in confiding with people when you're talking about things you're going through. You're not expecting 10 days from now, somebody going to bring up something you said 3 weeks ago, just in a random conversation. But that's the situation here with this young lady. She's been groomed to be a liar. And I'm going to tell you something that I've learned about people who are lying as adults. Lying starts usually when you're younger. I can't put an age on it, but I'm just saying when you're younger, usually under 18. If you're still lying by the age of 18, it's going to be very hard for you to stop past 18. Okay? I attended the same high school. Okay, Summer 67, thank you. Hello, Badger. Hello, everybody. But that's my point, is that she's now released from prison. She's in a relationship with this guy. We're going to see how it works out with this man. I'm not here to say it's going to work out, not work out. I'll just wait to see if something negative pops up, because naturally it'll be breaking news. You know that. But my fear is that she will still be a liar. And that's something that God needs to understand, because she's been in jail, she's been in prison. So one thing we learned about those two places, you got to ride the wave. You're in there with all kinds of people. So she's been around all kinds of people being in jail and prison. She's probably picked up some of their ways, learned some things, some tricks, ways of getting over. She's already learned that from her own mother. That's first and foremost. Now you've been to jail, prison, you're in there with the best of the liars and the thieves and manipulators, con artists and murderers, tempted murderers. So you can only imagine what her head is filled with now that she has been incarcerated. So that guy needs to be very careful. And this is not to talk bad about Gypsy Rose. It's just to say what is obvious and the possibilities that you are in a relationship with a stranger that you do not know, you don't know her, you only know her from talking to her through jailhouse phone calls and visits, if you were able to visit her, that's not the same as living with a person, dealing with the ups and downs. And that's the test of anybody who comes out of incarceration. I don't care what crimes they committed. When you come out here, that is your true test. That is your true test. Navigating, paying bills, working with people, going to school, going to church, dealing with neighbors. That is going to be your true test of how you're going to navigate, accept people, get used to people, their ways, your ways. And that's what he's going to find out about her. And that's what she's going to find out about him. That's also what her father is going to learn about her, and vice versa, because she hasn't had any social skills. So this is why I'm always preaching this about children, why you don't mistreat children. And Dr. Phil, he said it 1,000 times. You form a child's identity when you start mistreating them, abusing them, that maybe had they lived in another house, they would turn out different. But you're never going to know that because they didn't get that opportunity. And that's unfair to a child. And I say this with the Frankie children because they've been abused. Other siblings have witnessed abuse. So now you got to wait to see how these kids turn out as adults and pray they don't take those wicked ass ways into adulthood. And then they start abusing children and manipulating people and using people. Because I remember a young guy said this to me many years ago. And I tell you, man, this was so spot on. He said, Miss Angie, we all manipulate people. And I said, what? He said, we're all manipulators. He said, nobody can ever walk around this earth and ever say they have never manipulated another human being. And I told him, you know what, young man, that was the smartest thing I've ever heard from a young person. I said, I believe you're onto something. I agree with you. Exactly. We have all manipulated a person to do something for us, give us something, take us somewhere, buy us something. Because it's survival of the fittest. And sometimes people do what they think they got to do to survive. Not saying it's right, depending on what the manipulation is. But in the end, everything's a choice. But I think we all can say we have felt manipulated. We have been manipulated. We have willingly went into the belly of the beast, dealing with people, doing things for them, giving them things, tolerating their bad behavior. And we knew better. But we dealt with them anyway. Sassy says, I honestly think her mother would have ended Gypsy's life even accidentally and eventually. Yes, she could have. Because she could have eventually grew tired of her if she thought that girl was ever going to walk out, escape. Yeah, I could see her hurting her. That's why I said it was going to come down to some blows between Gypsy and Dee Dee one day. Somebody was going to say something the other one didn't like, and one of them was going to pop all the way off. In that room, it would have been self-defense, depending on who's initiated. Because who's to say Gypsy didn't one day say, I'm tired of living like this. I'm not sick. I can walk. You've been using people, lying to people. I don't want to do this anymore. And she could have just started beating the lady up. She was getting too old to control. Yes, Sassy. Very well. A very good point. Exactly. She was getting too old. 23 years of age. Yeah, that's way too old to still be saying, hey, hop into the wheelchair. Hey, get into the wheelchair. This girl has been watching Disney movies and family movies for probably 10, 15 years. She's tired of that. She's like, oh, wait a minute. I want to go out here and see what everybody else is doing. I want to go to the picture show. I've missed school. Just imagine all those years of missing grade school, junior high school, high school. You didn't ever get to go to a prom. You never did anything. Oh, thank you so much, Sassy. Oh, I'm glad you commented. Thank you. I appreciate it. The things we take for granted, the things that we are used to doing as children, we did as children. Just imagine all the things you did as a kid that you enjoyed doing, riding your bike, going to the corner store, sitting out on your stoop or porch with your friends, drinking ices and eating ice cream and going to the movies, slumber parties, school events. She never had that. So I try to weigh all of that in this poor decision she made to get that guy to kill her mother. She didn't have a life. And she was groomed so long, her only mode at that time was, I've met somebody, I like him, and I want out my mama's house. I don't want this life anymore. As I said, I'm not condoning the murder. But I also know that you can be groomed to think a certain way when you're around negativity. Exactly. She never had a normal life. And that is what's so sad about this storyline, is that she never had a normal life. And you couldn't expect her to just jump up and start acting normal and behaving normal when she's under the guise of this lady who's, holding her hostage. And, and like I said, many people are going to disagree and say, well, she was grown. She should have walked out. We know she should have walked out. We know she should have left. We know she should have called somebody. She should have called the uncle's aunt. She should have called a parent if she had the phone number. But she didn't. And that's the whole thing. 2020 is hindsight. People who are abused usually don't tell people. Children especially don't tell other people that they're abused, whether they fear for their safety or they don't think they're going to be believed, or they just say, I ain't going to tell anybody. And I can tell you from being a child, there's many things in my own personal life as a child that I've never discussed on the network, and maybe one day I will, but things I never told my own mother, okay? And I can speak of one incident that it wasn't pertaining to me, but it was pertaining to one of my siblings. When I finally told my mother something that an outsider had came and told me about a sibling, my mother didn't even express herself. She just stood there. She didn't say, really? Okay, well, I'm going to take care of that. So that told me that if you're not even going to respond to what I just said to you, which was a very, horrific situation, if something was going on with me, you now let me know I couldn't come to you and tell you. So see, this is what I'm saying. Many children don't tell things they hear and see and things they experience. And we question this a lot when we hear these horrible stories, such as the Frankie children. Perfect story. And it's a perfect example of what I'm saying. Look how many years those kids live with their mother, father, and ask yourself how many times you think they went and told somebody, I don't really like how my parents are treating me. Who's going to come back and tell us that one of those Frankie children or more came to them in confidence to say they were being physically and mentally abused by their parents? Probably not even a handful of people. Because what's going to happen is, if we hear that the children did go tell somebody that they were abused by their parents, then the first thing we're going to do is throw daggers at them and say, well, why the hell didn't you call CPS and call the police if you thought your sister or brother or whoever was abusing their own kids? That's my point. I wish there could be some repercussion for all the doctors who didn't catch this and did unnecessary procedures, okay? Children are so trusting of their parents, the ones who are supposed to love and treasure them. Exactly, Sassy. Exactly. Her mother taught her about control. In the end, she took control of the situation. She couldn't do it herself, so she had it done for her. Yes. She foolishly, found somebody to do the dirty work for her. Yes. But as you hear her speaking, and I don't know if she's actually remorseful or not, you're entitled to your opinion if you believe she's sorry, but she says she's sorry. She wished she had reached out to somebody and told them about the abuse. She wished she had never contacted the boy. She wished she had never told him about what was going on. And, she may be actually telling the truth, that she does feel remorse. That's why I said we'll have to see how she behaves hereafter. If you want to decide to go to her Instagram page and watch her posts to see what she posts about and talk about, that'll give you an insight into her mindset, if she's really remorseful. But in the end, some could say, well, I don't really care if she has any remorse. That lady was cruel to her. I don't really care if she killed the mama or if the boyfriend or the snowman killed the mother. I could care less, because she was abusing her damn kid. So whatever she got. Children don't even know they are being treated wrong. It's the only life they know. Exactly. And that's the point I want to make. Children are very resilient. And this is why children don't tell, because that's something you just said. Maybe they don't know anything else. I'm used to them beating me up, cussing me out, hitting me with a stick. Okay? Same thing with child abuse, being molested. Well, my daddy says he's a doctor, like that case I brought you the other day, that nasty thing out west. My daddy says he's a doctor, so he's touching my private parts. So I'm used to that. That's the point. You can get used to anything. Now, we're adults, so we're looking in the glass. We're not in the glass. So we're looking in the glass and we would say, I'm not going to get used to nobody touching my private parts, penetrating me. I ain't going to get used to nobody making me sit in a wheelchair and making me ride around and pretending that I'm sick. You don't know because you're not in that situation. You can speak for an adult doing stuff, but a kid can't speak for a kid because that's the whole point. You're a child. And children aren't going to think like an adult because they don't have the life experiences to navigate. Children navigate on, I want, I need at this moment. They don't know about repercussions. You have to be taught that. Hey, you can't have this right now. Hey, you can't go over there right now. You understand what I'm saying? A child doesn't know anything until he or she has been taught to think or navigate otherwise. Right from wrong, same thing. Somebody has to teach you, hey, that's not right. Hey, that's wrong. But as that case I brought you the other day with the man having sex with the stepdaughter, making children with her, and then molesting his own children too, one of the daughters said, oh, it was normal for him to keep touching us down there. Yeah, it was normal for, I knew that girl was my stepsister or whatever. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Yeah, we knew that he had been having sex with my sister and making babies with her. Basically, what she's telling you is we accepted that our father molested the stepsister and made babies with her. We came to get used to it. It's what you allow. And that's why they call it grooming. Anybody can be groomed. Whether you're a child, whether you're an adult. Adults are groomed every day and don't even know it. And that's another subject I'm going to come to you all with pertaining to social media, because social media has gotten way out of control. And the things that we're doing, is it acceptable? Because I'm seeing a lot of things that I'm noticing, especially when I watch reality TV, things I've even said on my lives and things I've posted on other platforms. What is acceptable and what should not be acceptable? Because a lot of things I'm seeing, such as older women dressing very, what do you call it, scampy. You know your butt is a size 20, 22, and you're trying to squeeze in a size medium pants. And you're too big. And you're wearing midriff tops and you're 40 plus years old. All this rainbow colored hair, something I noticed on a reality show the other day. And I was just asking myself, when did this become acceptable? That we say anything on a TV show, podcast, we walk around looking like animated fucking clowns. We're 50 years old, we act like we're 18. We're walking around in booty shorts and skin-tight clothes that we know it's too little for us. We're loud, we're boisterous, we act a fool. How did this become acceptable? That's the live stream I want to do. Let's see. But it's all they know, so they don't know it's wrong. It's normal to them. All these kids being homeschooled doesn't help the situation. Yes, I agree, Sassy. A lot of people think homeschooling is the answer. It's not the answer to me. The mother Dee spoke in the same childlike voice as Gypsy. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay, interesting. Thanks for telling me that. Yeah, I'm not against homeschooling per se, but a lot of the child abuse stories that are coming to light, they all have this radical religion tangled up in it, and also physical abuse, child abuse, and also child molestation. And we've learned this with the Frankie kids. I keep going back to that story because it's relevant. It's very relevant. Creepy, the voices they use, like Michelle Duggar baby voice. Oh, wow. Oh, God. Okay. I got you. Yeah. But that's sometimes, you're wondering if they don't really talk like that They're doing that to get sympathy, to get attention. If I act docile, if I act, demure, that people will, look at me and say, oh my gosh, she's so fragile. And oh, we got to help her. And oh, she needs our help. This could be just, as I said, what we have already seen, an act on the mother's part. And when I was listening to the prosecutor speaking during that A&E documentary pertaining to this case when she went on trial, you're hearing all these things they're saying about her, all the things they said about the mother. I didn't get to watch the whole trial. But in your mind, you're wondering, like, did anybody forget about what this mother did to their child? We understand that you putting her on trial for murder, you put the boyfriend on trial for murder. But while you're reading all these allegations and assumptions about this girl, that she knew what she was doing and she orchestrated it, blah, 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 you still, in the back of your mind, had to say to yourself, even as a prosecuting attorney, this was going to happen one way or the other because of what the mother was doing to her child. Even if she hadn't found this boy, things could have came to blows down the road. And this woman did abuse her child. That's not made up. They've got the proof. Because the horse told it. I'm not sick. I'm well. I mean, it's diabolical. I'm not against homeschooling, but these kids aren't being watched. That's a problem. Like Harmony, the West Boys, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Well, what we're learning with a lot of these cases that are coming to fruition pertaining to homeschooling and radical ideologies, radical religious beliefs, there's something wrong with the parents. So therefore, it's really not going to matter if it's homeschooling, private school, public schools. The parents are jacked up. So long as you have a jacked up parent, such as like Lori Daybell, okay, those kids went to school and look how that turned out. The parents are the problem. So when the parents' brain separates from reality and they start coming up with all these crazy ideologies about, zombies and the children are evil, they're possessed, this person's evil, you've got a mad problem because now the person is gone loco and they are capable of anything. And just like what I said with the Frankie children, if you can kill starve these kids, tie them up, you could do the same to an adult. What's the difference? As I call Jody and Ruby, tag team. Don't think they wouldn't have done this to somebody grown. Because Lori and Chad did it. They killed 2 children and they also killed 2 grown-ups. So don't ever think, well, they're punks, they're cowards, they would only abuse children. No. You have the propensity to abuse and manipulate children. You have the same ability to do it to an adult. It's no different. Someone had to die in this situation. I think Gypsy saved herself. It's not right at all, but it was one or the other. Yes, I agree, Sassy. I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to leave. I agree that same thing with these Frankie children. Something was going to jump off either way. Doesn't mean this was the right way, killing that lady, because I believe she should be in jail and she should be doing day for day in prison. She was owed that. But it didn't happen that way. And that's the point of abusing people, whether they're children or they're adults. You cannot think you're going to go out here and mistreat people and do all this foolishness to them and think it won't come back on you, because many people feel like this. Like I said, we're all selfish to some degree, self-serving, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths. We have some jacked up ass ways. We do jacked up SHIT to people. And we don't think it will come back on us, that we'll get caught up in our foolishness, deceitfulness, heinousness. But sometimes karma does come home. And I'm going to ask you that on my community page. Do you think this was Dee Dee Blanchard's karma for abusing her child and using the public? Do some of you feel she deserved to have been stabbed to death, beat up, whatsoever? Some of you don't care what happened to her because she abused her child. She brought this on herself. Do you believe she brought it on herself to have this girl meet this guy, fall for him, because he even said, I love her. I love her. The one thing begat another. And that's my point about abuse. Deceit. One thing begets another. And this is why you have true crime. It's because little things add up to big things. And then there's a jump off. Then there's interrogation. Then there's an arrest. That's how it goes. Most homeschool children lack social skills because of their limited frame of reference. You don't know what you haven't experienced. Exactly. Very well said. And that's why she didn't have any social skills. All she had was make-believe and watching probably TV commercials and any TV show where she could dream and fantasize about a life outside of that damn habitat house. And many people live this life and they're not directly abused to that degree or abused at all, but they see and they want this other life, but they can't get to it. They can't attain it for whatever reason. I think a lot of us dream and daydream of a better life and wanting more for ourselves. You're entitled to that. And if you believe in the Bible, it's in the scripture that you should have what the heart desires. That's your God-given right to want things for yourself, to desire more. Now, can we become greedy in the desires and the wants and the needs? Of course. That's why you have to check yourself. But you are the only one that can do that. You have to say, okay, I can't have that right now. I don't need that right now. I can't attain that right now. Only you can do that. Oh God, Sassy, you're killing me. The darkness will eventually come out in the light. Praise the Lord. Yes, and the truth was revealed. And frankly, that's a great point. The truth came out. Now, the way it came out wasn't the best as far as Dee Dee, because she was the one that was killed. But people now know that this murdered viciously. She was a fraud. And this is what people need to see as an example. Dee Dee's a perfect example of why you don't want to be a Dee Dee Blanchard. Very well said. Because you go out here using and manipulating, stealing from people, you should know, as I keep saying, you know that karma is going to come home. She's got to come home. It's a part of the universe. May not come today, may not come 10 years from now, but she's going to come home. And sadly for Dee Dee, she lost her life because she was a manipulator. Right now, Dee Dee Blanchard could be alive, living her best life, as people love to say, doing her own thing. This girl could have went off, went to school, college, did something with herself, but Dee Dee was self-serving. So you see, one thing begat another. Codependent mother, sick, diabolical mother, grooms her child, and then the child turns on her as an adult with another guy. And then 2 people go to prison and one's buried. Not everyone should have children. Often people think it's part of what they're supposed to do. But if you're not cut out to be a parent, it's selfish to have them. Yes. And the one thing I'm going to say about motherhood and fatherhood is the obvious. You are not going to know what the job entails until you get into it. Because as I said, there have been many people who wanted children, had children, but they realized it was not for them. And yes, they continue to raise the child, may have done the best they could, may not. But the point is, you are not going to know that job until you are actually in the job. And some don't fare well. And as I said, that's okay. It's acknowledging that you are not adjusting well to motherhood, fatherhood. Then you need to take the necessary steps to rectify the problem. And you do that however you see fit, but without harming the child. I'm going to stop right here because I have another live to bring to you all pertaining to the Idaho 4. And then I think I'm going to put Summer Wells in that same video. Thank you so much for following this network. This is a Crime Vault video. And with Crime Vault, I bring you an older crime with a resolution or non-resolution. That could be a crime where a person went to trial, was convicted or found not guilty, or a missing person case where the person was never found and no one was brought to justice. but nonetheless, it is an older crime. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm wishing all of you a wonderful new year. Please be aware of your surroundings. If you're going to go out this weekend, please be safe on Sunday. Haven't decided if I'm going out or not, but anyway, please be safe. Get a driver, an Uber or a Lyft. Take a cab. Not many cab services in these regions, but nonetheless, already have your ride set up to and fro if you're going to be in Binding this weekend. Give me a few minutes. I will be back on with live number 2, and this will be pertaining to the Idaho 4. As most of you know, the house is gone. I want to talk about the roommates, why they did not dial 911 originally. And also I want to talk about the summer wells search. Why did the rescue squad go to the areas that they went in looking for summer wells? That's going to be a double live, so I don't have to do another third live. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Bianji129 Cash App. The description is in this video. Comment below, and also go over to my community page to take the polls pertaining to Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her ex-boyfriend Nicholas. Was justice served in this case? Should she have gotten more time or no time? And should her ex-boyfriend be incarcerated for murdering her mother, or did he get the right sentence? Thank you for joining me. Thank you all for commenting and giving me your opinion in this live chat. Thank you so much. You have been listening to the Vote XL. I'll see you here shortly, everybody, for live number 2. Thank you.